Hey guys, I am coming to you today with our library overview video. Sorry for the delay with this. It's just going to be a pretty short video. I just want to show you some of the basics that I think are going to help you with this project. As you know, you need to find three credible sources, and I have posted a video to Momentum discussing how to determine if a source is credible. I've also posted the CRAP test, which I can pull up here in a minute and talk about. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about the library and the resources available to you there. So you can find the library from the main page in a couple of different ways. You can search library, and that'll pop up library here. You can also go to the A to Z index and go to L for library. That's what I usually do, even though it's not quite as efficient. And that will take you to this page. So one thing that you can do is you can just search. So this is kind of a search everything option. And that's fine. It'll pull up anything that's available. But it also is really, really broad. You'll often pull up just loads of sources if you do that. One of the things that I really like to encourage students to do, I think it's good for, this is a good thing for you to do if you don't have a topic yet, if you're trying to figure out what your topic is, and I know some of you still are trying to decide what to write about. Or if you have a topic and you feel like maybe it's a little bit too broad and you need to narrow it. So you need to figure out what are people talking about kind of within this larger topic. So from this main page, if you go to research tools right here on the left hand side of the screen, underneath the home, there's research tools. That will take you to, you've got databases A to Z, evaluating information. That's good for kind of figuring out whether or not something is good, credible, reliable, finding a topic, how to cite sources, research guides. I'm going to send you guys to find a topic. So even if you have a topic, I think a good place to start looking for research, because hopefully you're writing about something that's related to current events. Obviously you're writing to someone in a position of power to make an argument, so it needs to be something that's kind of currently relevant. And there's a lot of stuff under the Find a Topic research tool link that can help you with that. The three that I think are really, really helpful are Opposing Viewpoints and Context, CQ Researcher, and Points of View Reference Center. There's also, depending on your major, there are some, the library and the Learning Center have started kind of a library of topics from instructors in different disciplines, and these are some of the things that we've gotten. So things in business, art, criminal justice, education, health, sociology, and anthropology. So if you wanted to kind of get some really broad, these are all very broad, but if you wanted to get some just broad ideas, those are some things you could look into. Okay, so I think all of these are good. I'm going to go to Points of View Reference Center first. So if you're just looking for a topic, if you're not quite sure what you want to do, you can do things like browse by category. There's a little show all link here. It also has the in the news, which is good, but this will show a very, very long list of things. So if you're struggling to find a topic, this is a good thing to kind of scroll through. CQ Researcher and Opposing Viewpoints all have, to some degree, the same thing. So there's a Browse Topics kind of drop-down box for CQ Researcher that isn't quite as broad, doesn't give you quite as many topics, but it does give you some of the bigger headings. And then Opposing Viewpoints and Context, which I think is probably the most user-friendly. And this gives you, let's see here, we can go to browse issues here, and this gives you all of these different different things. And I should have come in here with an example. Let's see. I need an example. I'm terrible at coming up with examples just off the top of my head. What if we do, because I want to kind of show you some ways that you can play around with wording. Okay, so let's go back. And what if I am wanting to, so I'm a vegetarian for lots of different reasons. I find meat yucky. When I ate meat, I always kind of had a hard time disassociating myself from my pets and the food that I was eating. And I also have read a lot about the impact on the environment. So let's say that I was writing to someone in a position of power, maybe someone in the school systems, talking to them about offering more, I don't even know if this is an issue, but just go with me, offering more vegetarian friendly options for K through 12 students. So I'm just at this point wanting to kind of get some, kind of see what is out there in the world of vegetarianism. So vegetarian diet, vegetarian society, vegetarianism. Let's see what this kind of larger. So as you're typing, things will pop up, suggestions will pop up for you here. This is a terrible example. Let's see. Okay, so one of the things that I often do, so this opposing viewpoints and context, I think, is probably my favorite of these three. It breaks things up into the academic journals, so you can see that. Depending on your topic, some of these may be really very jargony, so it looks like a lot of these are very kind of related to just super scientific, like the way that your body processes different things, and that's probably not going to be what I want. I could open this and kind of see response to thermal stress, irritable bowel syndrome. So most of this is going to have to do with health, and I might want to make horizontal hostility among non-meat eaters. Interesting. I don't feel hostile, guys. I don't care if other people eat meat. Okay, so let's go back to the viewpoints. So I think that this is always really helpful. Viewpoints. This is going to give you specific arguments over this topic. People making arguments, and so here is a place where you'll be able to find likely people who are arguing for whatever it is that you're arguing for or against. So this is talking about the increase in vegetarianism. Vegetarianism is the right moral choice. I would want to look into some of these vegetarianism as a publication. That doesn't seem like really necessarily a balanced and fair, and neither is animal rights probably. Okay, so this was like probably a terrible topic, but this kind of shows you have academic journals, you have viewpoints, primary sources. So this is going to be like talks from experts, studies where there aren't necessarily people commenting on it, just raw data. a reference section if you need to know more about your topic. And one thing I want to say about reference, guys, so you guys have probably heard a lot about the evils of Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a credible source to use in an academic paper because it's something that can be edited by anyone. So, your grandmother can edit it, and maybe your grandmother is like a world-renowned scientist who is in there editing something on science. But maybe also your grandmother is someone who knows nothing about science, and she's in there making changes to a page that's science heavy. You probably aren't going to want to pull something for a paper from Wikipedia. But that does not mean that you can't use Wikipedia sort of as a starting point. I love Wikipedia. I think Wikipedia is great if you're wanting to kind of get an overview of something. You always definitely want to check anything questionable, and if you roll with a piece of information, you want to back it up with a credible reference source. But it's a good starting place, and it's also a good place that to kind of explore topics and things like that. So when people tell you that Wikipedia is evil, just tell them that they're being silly. Okay, and then videos, audio, there's all kinds of things. And then news. So this is going to have newspapers and magazines down here. Statistics, those can be really, really good. So maybe I'm arguing about why we should offer more non-meat options in our schools. And I'm trying to pull points from this to write to my local school board. And these could be some places where I could pull that information. You guys, it's a minimum of 3 sources, but you can definitely use more than 3 sources if you need to. I know that, I'm trying to remember who I got this email from. It was quite a smart email, from someone who was going to do something on standardized testing. Let's see what comes up there. Okay, so academic journals, and you can filter your results over here. So by date published, if you want to find the most recent stuff, you can look at publication title, subjects, and then also with your journals, if you're wanting to do a peer review journal, and that means a journal that has everything that comes through would be reviewed by people within the field to make sure that it's all legitimate. Few points here. So all kinds of things here. Abstaining from standardized tests disrupts national education data. So that's the person that I was working with was talking about the need to either get rid of standardized testing or limit the kind of impact that standardized testing has on the way that we run our schools. So that might be a counter argument that she wants to speak to. Standardized testing has serious limitations. Standardized testing is racist. Standardized testing. So all of these things, you can kind of go through, and a lot of these things you can look at the titles and you can see, okay, that looks like it might be helpful. But one thing to note, guys, as you're typing things in, you may have to kind of play around a little bit with your wording. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring in an example, and I'm having a hard time thinking of something that we might have to play with the wording a little bit. But if you're having a hard time finding exactly what it is that you need, my suggestion, so on that library page, if you go to contact on that left-hand side, you can call one of the campuses to talk to a librarian. You can text a librarian and say, hey, I'm doing a paper on vegetarianism and I'm not really sure. None of the word choices that I'm using in the search boxes are really helping. Can you give me some ideas? You can email, or of course you can visit a campus. that's not going to be feasible for some of you. So, and then there's also a chat function, and it looks like there is someone manning the chat right now. It'll tell you offline if there's no one there. So, but you can always type in your questions and press enter. You're welcome. And they should get back to you pretty quickly if they're monitoring that. So, oh, see, the Herman and Oak Ridge campus libraries are both open until 6:30. Say thank you. Thank you. Okay, so they get back to you pretty quickly if you ask them questions there, if they're available. So those are 3 of the sources that you guys can use. So the CQ Researcher and Points of View Reference Center, they all have these search boxes here. If you have a couple of different words that you feel like need to be included in that search, you can do advanced search for any of these, and that means that you can use a couple of different. So if I wanted to do vegetarianism in schools, or standardized testing and elementary, so if I'm looking specifically at elementary schools, those are some things that you can do there. And they all have this advanced search. But one of the things that I really like about definitely opposing viewpoints, and I can't remember if the rest of these do this or not. Yeah, this one doesn't give you as many options. Opposing viewpoints will give you a list of things that kind of line up with what you're typing in. CQ Researcher does not. So maybe start with opposing viewpoints in context, and then if you're not really finding what you're looking for, you can always move to Points of View or CQ Researcher. Those are all good places to look. One other thing while we're on here, and that's just a very basic crash course, guys. I'm definitely not a librarian. Our librarians are wonderful, and I definitely encourage you guys to reach out to them. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to pull up while we are here, okay, there it is the CRAP test. Let me just download this so we can see it a little bit more easily. So the CRAP test, this is something that a California librarian came up with, and it's just kind of an easy way for you to remember some of the evaluation criteria to keep in mind as you are looking at your sources. So the first thing to think about is currency. So how recently has something been published? When was the information last published or posted? Has the information been revised or updated? And this is really important. Does your topic require current information, or will older sources work as well? So some sources, you may need more historical data. You may need to look back farther than, more recent, or just there may not have been research that has been done super recently. For the most part, though, the more current the information, the better. And anything with a little box beside it indicates that it's specifically for the internet. So one thing in terms of currency to look at for websites is, are the links functional? That's important. Because if the links are up to date with corresponding websites, then someone has been on there checking. Relevance is something that I feel like students really often overlook. They see a source, they say, yep, it's got my keywords in it, I'm done. Is this source relevant for your topic? So does it relate to your topic or answer your research question? Who is the intended audience for the source? Is the information at an appropriate level? So you want to make sure it's not too elementary. So it's not written for first graders to kind of understand, the way that photosynthesis works. But you also don't want something so advanced that the wording is going to be so technical and jargony that you're not going to understand it, nor is your reader. Making sure that you're looking at a variety of sources before determining that this is the one that's going to be right for you, and asking yourself if you'd be comfortable citing this in your research paper. So the first A in the CRAP test is authority, so the source of the information. So looking specifically at the author, publisher, source, or sponsor. What are the author's credentials, or are they affiliated with an organization? Is the author qualified to write on the topic? So, if you know someone is a professor within the field that they're working and they've published other things on this, they're probably going to be, fairly authoritative in their field. If it's someone who is the president of a major organization within their field, research organization, something like that. So look at the other things that they've written, look at their education, look at their job or previous jobs. Those kinds of things will help you a lot. And you can reference those in your paper too. You can say, according to Jenny Rowan, foremost science fiction expert, you can refer to those things, and that really kind of helps you build up that source. URL can mean things. Does it reveal anything about the source of the author? So just a little kind of crash course on so .com, that's going to indicate that your source is a commercial source. That doesn't mean it's a bad source, but a lot of times with the .com source, you're going to see a lot of advertising. It can be an indication that it's not going to be a super credible source. .edu sources can be good. They're associated with colleges, but you also have to be careful because it could be something, a student's website where they've published their work for a class. .gov websites are really good for kind of collecting data. .org websites, you would think that those would be pretty credible, and there are a lot of, like, for example, in the healthcare world, .org websites that are, they're very important to kind of the study of cancer or heart disease or whatever. But then there are others that are, honestly, to steal the term here, crap. So the important thing is that when you're looking at more than just one piece of criteria. Accuracy, reliability, truthfulness, and correctness of the content. So where does the information come from? Is it supported by evidence? Are you seeing your source? Are you seeing the source back up what he or she is saying? Is it peer reviewed? You can a lot of times find that on the information page about the source. Can you verify the information in it from another source? Are you seeing this information in multiple sources or from your own personal knowledge? Does the tone seem unbiased and free of emotion? That can be really important. And if you're seeing a lot of spelling, grammar, or typographical errors, that means that it's probably not been vetted very thoroughly. And then finally, purpose. So what is the purpose of the information? Is it to inform, teach, sell, entertain, or persuade? If it's to sell, if it's to entertain, if it's to persuade, it's probably not going to if it's to sell or entertain, it's probably not going to be the best source for an academic source. So there's going to be two kind of sources you're going to run into. The just the facts kind of source, where it's like, here's this data, and take it, do with it what you will. And then there are going to be persuasive sources, and persuasive sources can be very scholarly sources as long as they meet these other criteria. A person who's saying, I'm making an argument, here is the research, here's my claim, and here are my reasons and my evidence to back it up. So asking, is the information fact, opinion, or propaganda? Does it appear objective and impartial? And then are there political, ideological, cultural, religious, institutional, or personal biases? Do you see those clearly coming through? Okay, so again, a crash course. And if you guys have a question about a source, or if you're struggling to find sources, I can try to help you with that. The librarians are going to be much better at helping you with that. My personal librarian here, Lindy Wibking, she's awesome, but we have lots of other awesome librarians around. Laura Vaughn, Robert Benson, they're both really great librarians. But if you're struggling to narrow your topic, if you have sources and you're trying to figure out, are these appropriate sources for what I'm doing, I can help you with all of those things. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. So jump in, guys. See what you can find. Keep me updated, and I will talk to you all soon.